everyone. Good evening. Yeah. Welcome to the December and last edition of JoziPug for 2024. It's been an eventful year, I must say. So thanks for everyone for being here tonight. Just for those online, a reminder, we are recording the session and we are uploading them to YouTube. Michael, that actually reminds me, I think you've got last month's recording on your side when you started the last meeting. So I just need to grab that from you so we can upload that as well. Yeah, okay, perfect. So tonight's a bit of a short one here. We're going to do a bit of in the news. I've got some of the announcements that came out of Ignite. Doug's then taking us through his podcasting solution and the journey that he took to get there. We're then going to have a snack break, and then we're all going to join up with all the other communities, and we're going to have a bit of a quiz extravaganza. Okay. Yes. Okay, so just thanks to Ukavuma, they sponsored tonight's food and drinks and that. So David, Manny, thanks guys, really appreciate it. Okay, so now there were loads of announcements that came out of Ignite on the Power Platform. Some really exciting things. I've highlighted the top 5 or 6, but there's lots of things coming in. So go and check it out. One of the cool things that they've brought in, and this thing I've been wanting for a while now, is the ability for the GPT within Power Platform in AI Builder to process documents now. So instead of you having to go and OCR the document, get that information and send it through, you now have the ability to send the document through straight away. And then, of course, you can get the extract from it directly inside there. So you don't need to use the document processing model all the time. You can even look at utilizing this if you want to compare 2 documents with one another, make sure they line up nicely, very similar to the experience that you get within a standard GPT model, which is going to be great. This is currently in preview. Also in early access, generative actions in Power Automate. I mean, this has been something that we've also been wanting to come for a while now. Now you describe what you wanted to achieve, and it goes and puts it together for you. So once again, and we've seen this trend come through with the Power Platform. We're really making it so simple and so quick to build out applications and solutions and workflows. Copilot really coming in and helping a lot with that. The other one, this one, I remember after the last Ignite, we had some really cool videos that we showed on RPA and Copilot, where you could use Copilot to do certain things. We have now launched the repair with Copilot for your RPA flows. What you're looking at here is the unattended flows. So it will be able to pick up things like user interface changes where there are fields that are suddenly missing. It will be able to let you know about it, but also how you can go about fixing it. And you would just say, okay, I approve the fix. It will go in and make the changes. So that's for the unattended. In attended flows, very similar scenario. You'll see it will pick up and it will say, okay, this field's not right. It's missing. You can see there it's flagged it. It's given a suggestion, and you can go and say, okay, fix this for every run. So once again, just making it a lot easier and quicker for you to keep these things running and operating. Next one, the Copilot for expressions. This is quite cool. This is now in public preview. Has anyone played around with this yet? Okay, so this is something that is going to be cool. I mean, you've got the slashing in the formula expression bar that works quite well as well. I mean, you just describe in natural language what you want it to be. But yeah, you can be a little bit more descriptive and get a bit more detail out on what you want it to be inside there. This is also currently in preview. Only in the new designer, yes. Yeah. The other one, and this is something I've been asked about quite a bit, in Power Automate, it now supports customer managed key. Okay. So if you want to utilize your own keys in the platform, Power Automate can now use it. This is generally available. It has been in preview for a while now. Now you can safely use it, David, not just the preview stuff. And then last but not least, Ignite Book of News. Fantastic resource. Just go to aka.ms/book of news. You'll see there is a Power Platform section specifically referencing that. Unfortunately, I have seen some of the sessions that they're referencing don't always have on demand. Okay, I've come across quite a few sessions that aren't available on demand, but there is still a lot of sessions where you can go download the presentations, review the session that was in there. So definitely check it out and get access to some of those things. Most of the announcements that were on the Book of News, they're now on the Power Apps blog and the Power Automate blog sites as well. So you'll see those coming through, getting a bit more detail in some of those things as well. Okay. Anyone else pick up anything exciting in the news or something that's coming they want to talk about? Okay, perfect. With that, thanks everyone. Doug, I'm going to hand over to you. Stuff like the Google podcast stuff, the Notebook LLM stuff, and a lot of people doing around things like what. Sorry, there we go. So what I want to do is, my son is 11 years old. He's in grade 5. He's on the autism spectrum, so he thinks differently to a lot of us. He's quite high functioning, which is quite cool. But the problem that we kind of always encounter is that he thinks differently to us. So he absorbs content differently. So the way that content is delivered really, speaks to him. So I wanted to help him create kind of like a study recap guide, right? So I was like, wouldn't it be awesome if, he'd taken all his mind maps and his textbook stuff that he's gone through, and if the morning I could just take a photo of the pages he went through, and then by the time we're in the car, we're listening to a very engaging podcast that's quizzing him at the same time. Would that be possible? And because I come from a low-code, no-code SharePoint background, that's the first place that I go, and I had to do like a little function app, but this is what I built, right? It's called VoiciFy, right? So it's using, and I want to show you what the end result looks like with him, and I've gone crazy now because I've added things like style guides. So the whole point of this app is that you are able to give some host names that you want to give them. So, and we can do a live thing here, so I'll ask for some ideas. We can select the voices, which is using Azure HD voices. I'm pulling out, and I've just got a curated list of them that I'm making available. And then I've got this. This is the cool thing. So it's these styles. So adventure here is in the style of Dora the Explorer, right? So it's like, hola amigos, and then try it on a financial report. It's amazing. Can you say insightful? So that works. And then I've got a Pinky in the Brain one now as well, which I love, right? I'm doing everything in that one. You give it a title. And then this is the important piece. So the style, and I'll show you what some of the styles look like. It's a style guide to say this is how you behave, this is the type of way you speak, this is how you engage with each other, etc., etc. But this is the audience you're talking to. So you're talking to
Samuel, and Samuel thinks very visually, and he likes to imagine things. So make sure that however you talk actually talks the way that they think, and it'll absorb. So it keeps the tone as much as it can, and then adjusts the dialogue to match how you would receive it, which is really, really cool. So let me show you how it kind of like came out, and then we'll put one in quickly, right? So, it's cool, we got there. So what I've done is I've got the option. So when you create a podcast, you got the option to do like a text input or upload a PDF or an image. So that would be taking the photos of a book that he's done. He also writes books, like in pencil. So I'll use that as an example, and I did a book review for him. So you can just keep on going crazy with this stuff. And then, of course, you can view your podcasts. So let me just go to the view your podcasts, and I'll show you an example of 2 of them at the moment. And I won't write the whole things, but you'll see here. So I'm using SharePoint to store everything in. I'm using a blob services, a whole bunch of stuff here. So you'll see here that I've got, this is my study recap service for Microsoft Learn, which is awesome. You'll see I put some Ignite stuff in there, which is also awesome. When I've got people talking about the Ignite book of news, I'm like, sweet, I'll just podcast it. There's his book review, but I want to go to like the geo recap because this is what he loved, because he likes humor, he likes dad jokes, but he also had to, and this is off the textbook, right? The grade 11 textbook. So I'm going to go into here. John, Jill, and Jack. Yes, I know, Jack and Jill. That's the names he wanted. But let me give you an idea what it sounds like.
Welcome to the Geo Recap. For full transparency, please note that this study recap has been created with the assistance of generative AI. I'm Jill.
And I'm Jack. Today, we're diving into the fascinating world of climate and natural vegetation in South Africa. Get ready for an engaging and energetic discussion.
Absolutely, Jack. Let's kick things off with a quick overview. Did you know that South Africa has a variety of climates ranging from hot and dry to warm and wet? It's like a climate buffet.
That's right, Jill. And speaking of buffets, let's talk about the difference between weather and climate. Weather is like the daily special, while climate is the overall menu.
Okay, so I'm going to stop it there because I saw you smiling. And he gave me a high five for that. He's like, that's awesome. Because you like the puns, it's like a buffet or the daily special, and that's just off the stuff of his textbook, right? So I haven't given it a lot of imagination. The temperature's like low, it's like 0, right, on it at the moment. So it's really just looking at the content, and then it's adding some stuff in there. And then, of course, I started going crazy with everything at the moment, and the latest one that I did was, and I'll just start the beginning because it's like, I took my README file. This is in a GitHub repo, so you'll be able to access it and deploy it and play with it and mock me if you want, but I mean, it's just quite a cool thing. So this one is Pinky in the Brain, because I love Pinky in the Brain. And
please take note that this podcast has been created with the assistance of generative AI. Narf! Welcome to Just for Mike podcast. I'm Mike, and this is my genius friend, Doug, ready to take over the world of creativity, VoiciFy, and all things audio content creation.
Yes, Mike. Prepare yourselves, listeners, for an enlightening journey through the fascinating world of podcasts, story narrations, and engaging discussions.
Gee, Doug, remember that time we tried to take over the world with a giant rubber band?
Yes, Mike. It was a flawed plan, much like your idea to use cheese as currency. Speaking of plans, let's discuss some strategies for unleashing creativity.
Yeah, now that's just off my README file, right? And the style. So let me show you how I put this all together. So we'll go quick here, and I'm just going to show you. Okay, I wonder if this mic is going to work over here. Okay, give me some names there quickly, and then while this runs, some names for the hosts. Anybody? Brandon. Yeah. And House. Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, so you can choose the voices. So this is just a list that I've got that's talking to the speech services. So I've got, like, for instance, like Ava.
Ladies, it's time for some self.
For instance, like choose. I think Andrew's quite a good one.
Welcome to Tech Talks and Chill.
That's a cool one. And then we can go. I was going to take female. House is going to be Ava because I like Ava. She's quite cool.
Ladies.
Okay, now we're going to go. So what do you want? Developer insights? Do you want a book review, coffee chats, Pinky in the Brain? Whatever it's going to be, right? So we'll go developer insights, right? And then we'll give it a title, and we'll call this audience style we can put here. So this is where we put stuff in like high level, keep it low, all that type of stuff. But I'm not going to do that right now at the moment. We'll just leave it as the default styles. And from here, I'm just going to go text input if I want. And what it'll do is, actually I need to grab some content. I should grab some content first. Hold on. I'll cheat with the content. Let's go quickly. I'm just going to grab something over here. I suppose we'll have to talk about Power Platform, right? See, they're trying to make sure that I don't scrape the content. Little do they know. Yeah, let's go quickly down. Yeah, let's go into Power Platform, and we're going to grab that one there. So I'm just going to talk about. I'm just going to take some of this content as it is, right? And just take that and put it into. Okay, so now what's going to happen is it's going to create call a couple of workflows. So I'm going to hit scripted over here, and what it's doing is it's taking the style. So it's looking at the style, it's looking at the content, it's creating engaging podcast with developer insights. If I want to put more stuff, it's building a topic list as well. So what it's doing is it's fetching the topics, it's looking at the content, grabbing like the top 20 topics and making sure that we cover all those topics inside of there so that we get a good lengthy podcast. Script takes a little bit of time, but here we go. So you can see what it's done is it's created it in what we call speech synthesis markup language, which is what is used by the Azure Speech Service. So when we send that to the Azure Speech Service, it synthesizes it, it puts the voices. You'll see things here. I've got, there we go, been created with it, the Pug podcast, latent tech and development, AI low code, particularly about new capabilities. And what you can do here is you can actually change it. So you can modify the script if you want, change the names, etc., etc. And what I do is when I hit this podcast button after it's done, what I'm doing is I'm sending it to an Azure storage queue. So it used to be just an HTTP trigger that I did, and I just sent it as a JSON payload. But as you know, with inside of Power Platform, there's some limits to, well, Logic Apps has got a limit of like 2 minutes or 2.5 minutes, and then it times out. So the solution around this was to send it through to an Azure queue service. So there's the workflow that you can actually do that. You can say, send a message to an Azure storage queue. And I built a function app that basically monitors that storage queue every minute. And as soon as something comes in, it takes all of that SSML, sends it to the speech service, cleans it up, creates an MP3 file, puts it in storage. And then I've got another Power Automate flow that works that's looking for an output queue. And then it goes and grabs the file once it's created, puts it in the SharePoint list, creates the description, the title. Not too complicated, but yeah, sort of complicated. And how this looks is, so I've got my communication sites. You can see I've gone crazy with podcasts that I've got here at the moment. But let's take a look at the style guides first, right? I've actually got a version that puts intro audio in as well. So if you can get an MP3 file, you can have like a drums or whatever it's going to be. But here we go. So let's take a look at the developer insights, right? And this is essentially what it looks like, if you can see. So you can see what's happened here is I've done the styles. So all the styles are the same. They follow the same format, right? So what's the tone? How do you interact? What's the kind of example dialogue? And it uses that all inside of the prompt. And I'll show you, that's the magic, right? The prompt is creating this thing. The other thing that I've got here is obviously my voice examples. Then I've got something called SSML transcriptions, which is like cleaned out earlier on, but essentially that will take the SSML that was created, the text, the original text for you to go and audit it, right? Just to make sure that you're doing things that are right, and then I put it into essentially the document library. So in the Power Automate, there's actually just these ones that it's using, right? So the one is, we've done the one with text, right? So if I open up this text one, and I've got one for upload. So the upload does the same thing basically, but it's doing an extra step, which is extracting all the content, from the uploaded image. It all follows the same type of process. So you'll see here that I send from the Power app. This is all the information I'm sending it to it from those fields. What is the voice 1? What is voice 2? What is the content? Everything that I wanted to do. Then I've got an AI builder, which actually goes generate, text with GPT. Looks at the content, gives me some topics, because I just needed to add that to make sure that we cover everything. Then I've got this, and this is the important one, which is the create podcast. So what this does is it's GPT-4o that it's running from an AI builder perspective. And what's very cool is that, you can fine tune it with your inputs and things that you've got. So I've taken the extracted text. I'm just waiting for this to run. Taking some time. Yes, I'll tell you. Run away. Okay, well, while that goes, here we go. Great. Right. No, I don't want to see this stuff. No, I know it's awesome. I'm great. So you'll see here that I've got. So I use the content, right? Create a highly engaging pod script. There's the host names that I put. So, Doug and Dave or Brennan, whatever it is, go and grab the podcast title. That's what the title of the podcast is, right? Here you say, I want to put it into SSML format, and I've given an example of the SSML format, right? So this is a structure that it requires. And then, there's voice 1 and voice 2 that are selected. Then they call my style guide. So it really just puts it into the instructions for the model, and then some additional things, like I want to make sure that the podcast has been created with the assistance of generative AI, and I do other kinds of things. So there's all kinds of cool things you can do with the speech service. The speech service, you can change pitch rate, volumes, all kinds of stuff. So there I've actually gone and said, for words or phrases that include excitement, make the pitch high. For sad, make it low. And, you can play and go wild and stuff like that, right? And then tailor the dialogue to the audience preferences detailed in the Audience Pro, which is called tailor-made style. So here I can just test the prompt because I've got data in there already. And you'll see it generates that SSML. And then you can obviously test it, and that's running GPT-4o. But essentially, that's the magic piece of generating that SSML script. What's cool is I'm starting to call this from Copilot agents now as well. So now I can go, tell me what's coming up in my day in the style of Pinky and the Brain. And then play it for me. And it's really awesome, I think. And there you can see there's the script that's been generated, right? So you can see the pitch and the breaks and all kinds of stuff like that, right? There we go. Doug was a floor plan. You see, I like this one. Take the terrible. Have you ever tried to take over the world with your amazing ideas, listeners? Share your zaniest plans. Indeed, and perhaps we can refine them into something more feasible. So that's me. Okay. So we should have done by now. Let me refresh that. And that podcast we created should be there. There's the pub podcast. All right. And let's go and see how it goes.
Solution architecture from apps.
Please take note that this podcast has been created with the assistance of generative AI. Welcome to Pug Podcast, where we delve into the latest in tech and development. I'm your host, Brandon House, and I'm joined by my co-host, Ava.
Hi, everyone. Today, we're diving into some exciting developments in AI and low-code apps. I'm particularly thrilled about the new capabilities coming to the Power Platform.
Absolutely, Ava. Makers are going to have a new way to build complex solutions on Power Platform. With Copilot and Power Apps, they can define business problems.
That's pretty much it. So there is one key component behind this, which is the function app, right? So I'm not a coder. Mike will tell you this. Anybody else will tell you this. So I'm not. I mean, the last time I developed was like C in like 1999. That's how old I am. Okay. But I had access to this wonderful tool called GitHub Copilot and Visual Studio Code. So I knew what I needed to do. I knew that I needed to call a function service, and I needed to take this SSML because that's where I created everything in the app, right? Now, how do I send this to the speech service? So I asked GitHub Copilot. That's the wrong one. Yeah, that is the right one. So I said, I mean, you won't believe it, but essentially, this is it, right? So I said, I want to do a whole bunch of stuff. I want to send it to queue service and process it and all that kind of stuff. And it built out the structure for me. And obviously it didn't work the very first time, but it got me started, right? And I started asking questions and I started learning, and all of a sudden I'm learning new things as well. And this is like a reusable function, right? Because all you need to do is you don't need the Power App front end. You just need to send it well-formed SSML, and it'll do the rest for you. And that's cool. And that's in the repo as well. So you guys can take this, you can break it, modify it. The next thing I want to do is create Power Apps and stuff like that. I mean, normal web front ends into this. And yeah, that's it. I think that's it. I think I covered it all. That it? Okay. Any questions? Yeah, so I'm using the new Azure HD Voices preview because they got like a lot more gravitas to them. I don't know if you heard those voices, they're like rich sounding and things like that. The normal voices that we've got for the neural ones, like the South African ones are a bit bad and a bit blandish at the moment, but they do understand the tag. So what you do is you play with the stuff like the pitch. So if you say wow, raise it. So you can try and get it there. You can also record your own voice. So I could be talking to myself, which is probably a good idea because I mostly listen to myself in the cars. But anyways, but if you imagine what you can do with this, for instance, like HR policies or any type of content like that that you need to deliver to an audience, and maybe it's a great way that they can consume this, right? Take the most boring content you can find and try to make it exciting. Like a disciplinary, right? Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I'm thinking like, man, I could do my meeting schedules at like a horror movie trailer or something like that, you know? So, I mean, you could go wild with this kind of stuff. But like I said, it started with my son. It's grown into something way bigger, I think. So, yeah, use it, don't use it, but I think it's so cool. Just between, no, not end of October. It was in November. I think it was November, yeah. But it was like between 8 at night and 3 a.m. in the morning. So I think that's not during, because it's not my job. So it's just something I wanted to play with. Yeah, so I mean, I can set it quite, so because like he does have auditory, so for like, you know, high-pitched voices and stuff, that's why I chose the voices and things like that. And you can make sure that the pitches, you can add that kind of stuff in there to say, you know, let's put it into like a medium pitch or a low pitch or whatever it's going to be. And I should add the tags into there. I haven't played too much with it because he was fine with when I played in the samples that he could actually hear that. The other cool thing about the speech service as well is you can actually specify the environment that it plays in. So it'll actually change the audio. So you can actually say this is meant for car speakers. This is meant for headphones. This is meant for public. And it actually adjusts the frequencies and stuff like that to match for the best kind of like quality. Yeah. So remember what I'm doing here is I'm feeding a content that it must only look at that content at the moment. Yeah. Initially, it was like throwing in nonsense. I specified in the prompt, so I kept the temperature low because you keep temperature low, then it's really not making things up. But I also say, don't make anything up. Don't add anything to the content that is not there already when you're talking about the content. And a lot of times you'll see in the prompt, I go, use the following content, read the following content. And then I'll always reference the content again as an input to fine tune it again and make sure that you are understanding the tone of the content and you're talking in the context of the content and stuff like that. Don't make anything up. So that's pretty much been working for me there. Obviously, I can't ask any question against the content. Maybe that's something else. But the whole point here is just to create a pre-recorded ad or script or study guide or book review or whatever that's going to be. Pretty much, that's what it's doing. It's doing a little rag on the content that I've provided, right? So it hasn't indexed the content for that. So, yeah. Yeah, it's a structured output. The GPT-4o actually understands that. So the one problem that I had was that it wouldn't always contain everything that I'd fed it, right? And that's why I built a little piece on the top that says, look at that content you've extracted and pull out all the key topics. And then what's actually happening in the background is I've got my audience profile. But what the system's doing at the back end is adding to the audience profile, these are the topics I want to talk about. And then it kind of fixed that for me. But you guys can play with this. So it's out there. So perhaps dev environment. So if you've got a dev environment, obviously you've got all the connectors and stuff like that because I wouldn't be able to run this by myself. Yeah, GitHub, McFuzzy Squirrel. McFuzzy Squirrel. Oh, okay, yeah. So I want to do the generative AI. I just created them and just uploaded them, so because I wanted to make it look good. But we could potentially put in the image generation in there, whatever it's going to be and stuff like that. But yes, yeah. So I did. Do I still have it? I think I still got it. So that's where I added. I'll show you. Don't look at my password. Not even my computer can see it. Pen is incorrect. Pen. This one in your machine. Yeah. No, it's just Mick Fuzzy Squirrel, MC. Show you. Yeah. Come on, open up. So I do have. Yeah, there's a Mick inside of there. So I've actually got. You'll see here. There's a podcaster demo 5 environment. V5. Don't ask everyone what happened to V4. I don't know where it is. And essentially, this is where I say I want intro audio in it. So you can also add background audio. So there's all these tags you can add background audio. So you can have like cars driving or a coffee shop. So you'll see some intro audio inside of here. And it's a list that I've got drums. And what it's doing is it's doing an MP3. So it's just referencing an MP3 file. So and inserts. So I've got the same generate model for the generate podcast, except in that piece that I've got the where the voices are, I've added an extra one right at the top that says audio source equals HTTP MP3 file dump, and then that's what it does. So you can go crazy. I am. That's why I did that. Copied the Inklight Book of News. I'm doing little pieces in there at the moment. I don't have the web piece in here at the moment, so. But I should just point it to the whole book. But the book of news is too long, so that's why I'm breaking them into like little sections of podcasts and stuff like that. Yeah. Any other questions? Got quite a good guide going in there anyway. So if you're running into any issues with the app and stuff like that, let me know. I keep on fiddling with it, so I'll publish more and more of the apps, but the function stays the same.
Yeah, there's the free way to do it, which you need to record yourself saying about 5 or 6 sentences, and then it can take your voice and translate it into multiple different languages. So you want to hear what you sound like speaking German or French or Italian. It's quite interesting to see. But then you can also train a model on your voice that takes a little bit more work. It's probably about 20 minutes of recording where you've got to read out on the screen of a couple of sentences. It checks for your tone. It makes sure that you're saying every word clearly. So that takes about 20 minutes, half an hour to do. You can then build a model on that, and then it becomes one of the voices like you have inside of the Azure portal that you can use. And it sounds quite all right. Obviously, the more you train it, the more sentences you give it, the more accurate it is going to be sounding like you. Okay. No, I haven't seen that. The only thing that I have seen is you can run that voice locally in a Docker container. I haven't seen about exporting it out to a separate environmental subscription yet. Yeah. You must also remember you've got, with that recording, you're cloning your voice. That's a highly sensitive use case because now you think you can clone someone's voice and you can make them sound or say anything you want. So there is some attestations you have to do. There is a approval process to request access to that type of service. and just make sure that you are using it responsibly when you are doing it. It's like I created the avatar clone of Lillian Barnard, who's our Africa president. I can get her to say anything I want now. So you've got to be very careful with those sort of things. Or I can go to my boss and say, hey, Lillian's given me a 50% increase. Check. Yeah. No, that's going too far. You've got to keep it realistic. No, perfect.
Welcome to M365 blogging.
Welcome to
Welcome to Sam.
But there are already podcasters and YouTubers out there that are utilizing very similar technology. There's this one guy I follow. He focuses a lot on Gen AI, and a couple of times he's been sick where he's lost his voice, and he's done the whole podcast with the AI, and it actually works out pretty well. You can hear the difference, but it's very close and works well now for those sort of situations.
Well, so I mean, I was playing with it, but what was frustrating me with it, just on that side of the stuff, was I wanted to be able to make it as customizable as possible, as flexible as possible. And Power Apps is a great way to do that. So I mean, the ways that I can change the pitch, the voice, the style, all that kind of stuff. That's what I wanted to do. You know, it's like we just like to play. We want to custom things. We don't want just something as it is. We want to make it as personal, as tailored as we want. It's not just for podcasts. I can do narrations. So we can have like a one person talking and doing like a news broadcast or whatever it's going to be. Just all off using the same app essentially in the same process from that. So you create a style for a narrator or a newscaster or, you know. Okay, so obviously the one big limitation would this be is like the size of the context window, right? And the size of the document I'm pulling. If I'm pulling in like a 64-page document, it's going to break because I'm going to need to chunk it beforehand, which is what we're going to start looking at next, is like, how do we chunk the content, get it in, make sure that we've got it, maybe break it into multiple podcasts for like super long content. It's picking up things like tables and financial results. I mean, I've been taking like integrated financial reports and I've been putting that into it. That's coming out great as well. So especially if you add some funny styles to it, it makes it much more engaging. And again, that's when you also say things like, I want to focus on these things, or I want to, you know, focus on everything. It goes quite fast at the moment because we're using a storage queues and not the HTTP calls. Yeah, that's really, I think, the only thing. And I'm just obviously fiddling around with like the different tags that we can put into the speech service as we generate it. Yeah. Cool.
Thanks, Doug. Okay, so I think we're done with our schedule for tonight from here. Next, we are going to be combining all the rooms and we're going to have a quiz extravaganza. But first, we're going to get some refreshments and some snacks, and we'll see you all in the next year. David, we're not doing a January session, hey? Not. Okay, so we'll meet up again in February. Just other thing, there is a call for speakers for the bootcamp next year, the Global Power Platform Bootcamp. So if anyone does want to contribute, there are a couple of links on LinkedIn and that, or just reach out to one of us and we can point you in the right direction. Okay. Things are planning good. I think it's going to be a great one again. This year's one was very successful. We're looking at expanding on that one still. Okay. So thanks everyone. If we don't see you again, have a good Christmas. See you all in the new year. Yeah, go to the quiz dance. Yes, oh no, absolutely. Oh. You could make money off of that. No, perfect. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for those online. We'll see you all soon. Cheers.